Okay, hi everyone. This is a very special video, okay, because we have a guest here today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning. My name's Jon Whitehead. I run Holbrook Farm Shooting, a neighbour of Chris that's down the road. And we've got a small farm here where I do shotgun coaching and airgun instruction and safety courses.
And that's what this video is about today, really. So what we're going to do, we're just going to have a little chat now on camera. And then either today or later on, we're going to actually look at some of the things that Jon offers here with his tuition. Okay, now I just want to start by just telling you guys how I met you, because I think this is important.
Absolutely, yes.
So Jon, when he was getting his shotgun coaching license, would that be right?
Coaching accreditation.
Coaching accreditation, he had to do some sample lessons. And my partner, Abena, was really interested in doing it. And so she said, do you want to come along and give it a try? And we did.
Yes.
And that was the first time that I'd met Jon properly. I'd seen him around and stuff, but I had no idea.
That was what, 3 years ago now?
It would have been 3 years ago. And I remember this distinctly because I was terrified of the shotgun.
Very respectful of it rather than terrified.
But the thing was, I was trying to hold it like a rifle. And I remember you talking about my stance and all of those things. And Jon went on to teach Abena how to shoot. COVID put a bit of a stop to that. But she really enjoys it and is going to be starting soon. And the final thing that I'll say before I start to ask Jon some questions, that he's been very important in teaching me about shooting. Not only like the basics like gun safety, but a lot about technique and trigger technique as well.
Trigonometry, if you like.
Trigonometry, that's a good way of putting it, yeah. No maths here. So I've got some questions prepared.
Yeah.
When did you start using air rifles?
A long time ago, rather frighteningly, 60 years ago I had my first airgun. In those days, there were no regulations, anybody could have a shotgun, and I was about 7 when I first had it.
So you were 7 years old when you had your first air rifle?
Not allowed these days, and I wouldn't recommend it, but that was when I had my first air rifle, and I still have it.
Is it? Okay.
And it's still working, and I've still got an airgun pellet, which as a result of an accident with that gun, I carried in my nose for 30 years, not knowing it was there after I was shot.
I think that needs a little bit more elaboration. So tell me about what happened.
A group of us as kids were playing. Somebody else had the gun, and he let it go accidentally, and it hit me on the nose. And it barely bled. We all thought it had bounced off, couldn't feel anything, couldn't see anything. It healed up almost immediately. And some 30 years later, I had an X-ray on my head for a totally unrelated reason. And there, very clearly, buried deep in my nose, was an airgun pellet. And
they pulled it out during...
It was subsequently removed, yes.
Wow. Do you remember what the make is of your 60-year-old airgun?
It's an original.
Was that the make of it?
Yes,
okay.
The German one. Very basic, break barrel.
Yep.
Still works today, we'll play with it later.
Yes.
It's showing a few battle scars from being used over the years. And
yeah.
Things like a few screws are missing and being replaced.
I mean, that's got some miles on it if it's done.
It's certainly got some miles. It's in a lot of pellets from it. But it still works.
So, if you were 7 years old when you started using an air rifle, were you instantly hooked, or was it something that you had an initial attraction with and you just bled into it and got more involved through time?
In that day, everybody had air guns.
Right.
And I've always been fortunate that we've had enough land that I can just pick it up and go out and shoot in my own garden quite safely. And I used to spend a lot of hours shooting targets out the bedroom window, similar to you're doing now. Maybe not the window, but target shooting. Over the years, I've gone in and out of it. Since I've been coaching now and I've got more time on my hands, I've collected more air guns, all through the range. Different things, which again we'll see and play with later. Play, not being the right term, but you know what I mean.
Yes, of course.
Stress that. As you know with me, the first priority is safety. Jon
has always been very hot on every aspect of safety whenever we've been shooting together. Now, the thing that I will say is I still consider myself an amateur, getting into this. Okay, so there are some mistakes that I made that you pick up on very quickly. But John has always been very respectful and understanding of pointing things out in a very sagely way, I would say. I've never felt belittled or I've never felt uncomfortable.
Good. Yeah.
It's always been very, very natural. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, John. So you were talking about like your progression and the fact that you, like me, I guess, in a way, I started airgun shooting when I was about maybe 10. My parents bought me a BSA Meteor.
Yes.
Right, an iconic gun.
Very, very much so.
And without, other than the tuition of my father, it was basically me and my brother going around the garden. Now, I know from speaking to you that you're not only a fantastic ambassador for airgun shooting in the Southwest, in the United Kingdom, but I think that I'm right in saying one of your goals is the preservation of the sport.
Absolutely. I suppose shotgun is my main coaching.
Yep.
Which again I've been doing. I've had shotgun licenses and shotguns now for 45 years.
And you do offer shotgun tuition as well.
Shotgun coaching, yes.
Coaching, beg your pardon. Okay, wonderful.
And safety courses, very much so. The main thing. What's the track now?
We were talking
the reason for it.
Yeah.
The shooting as a whole is under a great deal of political pressure. There are a lot of people. I won't call them a derogatory term because a lot of them have good intentions but don't understand our sport, both in target shooting and in vermin control and in game shooting. My goal is to try and educate as many people, get people into our sport, get them started, see it is a safe sport.
Yes.
We're not a load of hooligans that go around and shoot everything.
Not at all.
And I really think that if our sport is to survive, we need to introduce more people to it, such that it becomes like angling. So many people do it, the government won't dare ban it.
Okay.
You've got people, I'll mention one name, Chris Packham. He sounds very good. His understanding of it is very biased. He's got one intention, and that's to ban shooting full stop.
Right, I'm not familiar with that. But.
And a lot of people follow him. He sounds very good, but when you listen to him and when you see what he writes and his organisation, Wild Justice, they've got one ambition, and that is to ban shooting. Do
you think that if we could ever organise Chris Packer to come here and talk to us?
He wouldn't. There are far more important and influential people than me trying to connect with Chris Packer.
So what do you is his biggest concern an environmental one or a safety one, or what's his biggest?
They are trying to use a lot of environmental arguments
to ban airgun shooting.
All shooting.
Okay.
All shooting. As the environmental argument, which when analysed, and some of these have been to court and been thrown out spectacularly, he's trying to use that as a method to ban shooting altogether.
I would be very sad if that happens.
A lot of people would. The organisations, I am a BASC or BASC, call it what you will, accredited and trained coach and instructor. It's the biggest shooting organisation in the country. Hopefully, arguably the most influential, but we're joining forces with all the other leading shooting organisations and spending a lot of time and money fighting these spurious legal arguments, trying to keep our sport going. And I will recommend to anybody that gets into shooting, try and join one of these organisations. It's our future. And in addition, it has a lot of benefits. Even if you only join it for the insurance that it gives you, which is one of the best policies you'll ever buy. For your own safeguards and for other people. But, you know, look at it.
Yeah, sure.
You know, if you don't join BASC, look at one of the others.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can recommend that strongly enough.
So with that in mind, and now I wasn't aware as acutely as I am now of some of the pressures that are on shooting. Again, I'm coming into this from a keen novice, right? So with that in mind and what it is that you want to do for the sport, what are the sort of things that you're going to be offering here specifically for people that might be interested, that want to get involved? So take us through like what a typical half day or a day thing would look like with you.
Well, it varies. It solely depends on what people are looking for.
Okay.
If you're a total novice to airgun shooting or a raw beginner and don't really know where to go, one thing we're offering is a half-day course, which will be for 4 is a nice number, where we will spend perhaps up to an hour in the clubhouse here, or classroom, call it which you will, where we will talk through all the safety aspects and introduce you to the full range of available air guns.
So take us through, what would that range consist
We'll
of?
start off with the basic break barrels,
Okay.
which are a very good introduction for people because they are cheap, they're accessible and easy to use.
Low maintenance?
Low maintenance, yes.
They don't go wrong either, in my experience, break barrels.
Very rarely. And if you know which end of the screwdriver to hold, you can usually repair it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then one step up from that, the underlever ones, where you cock it with that lever under the barrel rather than brake barrel, same thing, spring powered air. Then we have a range of pistols.
Okay.
These vary from great fun, one step up from the little soft pellets that kids play with. But these fire real pellets and are quite accurate and quite dangerous, potentially if mishandled. And they work on a little CO2 bottle.
Okay.
Which one here.
Yes. Okay, so that, rather than a spring.
Rather than a spring, yes, you just plug one of these in, and they're good for 60 or 70 shots.
Wow. Okay.
Quite powerful.
Yep.
Great fun, and we'll demonstrate some of these. And then going up from those, we have what's known as a PCP, or pre-charged pneumatic. You can see why we say PCP.
Yeah.
And if Chris can pass over on those cylinders behind, that's a baby one. It's filled up from one of these.
Sorry.
So instead of cocking a spring or putting a small bottle in, we pump it up with this, and it pumps up to 4,500 pounds per square inch.
So that's high pressure.
Very, very high pressure.
Ejecting the pellet.
And the advantage of that, it gives you superb accuracy, no recoil, and the sky's the limit with these. You can buy new ones for a little over £200, which do the job perfectly, a bit rough and ready.
They're good.
Or like Chris, you can spend just a little bit more, don't tell Abs, and get electric release ones with phenomenal accuracy.
They also look cool, in my opinion anyway.
They look very cool. I'd be fine to use one in case I left a mark.
There's no accounting for taste though. Okay, so you're gonna.
And in between, we have one of the top of the range BSA ones.
Oh, for juniors.
And for juniors.
So that's
for adults, the R10 SE, which is the best BSA one.
Yep.
I might add that BSA are one of the sponsors of BASC, but that makes no difference.
But that's still nice to know.
Makes no difference, but they are a great sponsor, and they actually do help us a lot.
So, but then thinking about the junior one, so this is small people, children are eligible for this.
Actually, I would say 6-7 years and older, no trouble.
Fantastic.
The small one only weighs £5.
Okay.
It's exactly the same as its big brother, just smaller and lighter. It's half the power of the big ones.
Yep.
And it is very easy to control. While we're here, Chris, would you pass me over that bit of wood that I showed you yesterday?
Absolutely. There we go.
One thing I would like to show, and whenever we start any airgun training, first thing I say is, don't think an airgun is a toy. An airgun can be a serious weapon if misused. And what I'm going to show you here, this is a standard power airgun we used, and I set up a bit of ply. This is 3mm ply, and that is how strong it is. And at 40 yards, drilled straight through it.
There you go. That one there.
Turn it round and you'll see the whole the other side. So I don't think anybody's skin is tougher than 3mm ply, and certainly the back of your skull isn't. So
these are serious things.
These are serious things.
And I think that's really important. So rather than going straight in and buying a wire arc HW100 PCP, I think that having some understanding of like the history of airgunning from springers all the way through is going to benefit you, because not only are you going to have better gun control, you're also going to appreciate what it's like to fire a PCP.
Yes, yeah. If I can go on now.
Please do.
After the session in the classroom here, we will then go out to the shooting range, where we've got a 40-metre range with a series of paper targets. We've got knockover targets and all sorts. And for the pistols, we use something just like plastic bottles hanging from a tree. Yep. Because they're very great to hit. You can see. And, because the handheld pistols aren't as accurate. So if we just had a small target. But the important thing is everybody will have the chance to fire a good number of pellets
through all of those guns.
Through all of those guns, and we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, probably 7 guns.
Wow. Okay.
And they'll take the targets home with them, and while they're doing it, they'll get some tuition as to how to handle it.
And so can I ask some questions? I've just been thinking of some things while you were talking. So if someone really enjoyed it, say for example, and they wanted a few more sessions, can they book them?
Absolutely. I enjoy most, and I think people get most out of it, is a one-to-one session.
Yeah.
Where we start off here, we do the safety brief. No matter who you are, you'll start off here with a safety brief for the first time that I meet you.
Yep.
When I know you, fine, we can go straight on. But that you will get the brief.
Yep.
If I don't know you, you get the instruction. Simple as that. We can then go out onto the range with whichever type of gun you want to use, or all of them, all the different targets, and you will get whatever tuition you want.
So it can be totally bespoke to whatever it is you want?
Yes, yeah. If you've never handled it before, you'll get detailed instruction right for the basics. Okay. If you're an expert, probably I may not be able to offer you that much apart from the facilities and guns. But the beginner, the intermediate, the keen improver, great. These are the people I want. And
certainly from over the last year, coming and speaking to Jon and actually shooting with him, that's more or less what he's done for me. It was actually Jon that inspired me to buy my first multi-shot PCP, believe it or not, when I was using your R10 back in the summer. And I was amazed by how good it was. And I went out and immediately bought a BSA Ultra, which I subsequently sold. But he's always, not only did he do the safety brief with me to find out that I wasn't a total lunatic, he also, every time I've been to see him, I've learned something. And I still am. What about, is there any issues with age ranges here? So I would guess that there has to be parental consent or something signed.
If anybody is under the age of 16, they will need their parent or guardian to sign the consent. Everybody who comes here has to sign the consent form. Basically, it's a legal thing to say that they're not exempt from handling a gun. Because they don't have criminal convictions. Okay. I won't go into the legislation, but no. You have to sign in, and I have to keep that safe. Keep that list safe for a period of time. It's not up to me to check, but it's up to you to make that declaration. Sure. If you make a false declaration, then you've committed a legal offence. In the case of anybody under 16, then we do need a parent's.
I think that's important. I think that's really important, like being a teacher as well, to get that thing across. Yeah,
I am the had the full criminal disclosure, barring
DBS check,
enhanced check.
Fantastic.
To deal with children and
or anyone,
any handicapped people or anything like that. I've got full clearance.
So on the day here, we're now sitting in John's clubhouse, which is something that he's been working on for the last year or so. Facilities, there's toilets and drinks facilities, and it's very, very comfortable and very relaxing. And you would come here, you could put your bags or whatever, and it's locked. Not that we get a lot of crime, particularly in this part of the country. Pellets, assumingly they're provided.
Absolutely, everything. Yes, everything's provided.
All you need to bring is yourself.
Yeah.
And a willingness to learn new things. The final thing that I would...
Can I stress, when I say everything, all safety equipment is provided and must be worn.
Absolutely. Okay.
That includes particularly the eye protection.
So what I thought we would do, now we've met John and we know a little bit more about what he does and what he offers, we thought that it would be really fun to kind of do a little bit of a run through of the sort of things that he offers with me, right? So this is the first time that John and I would have been on camera together, and I'm gonna not pretend like I know everything, because I don't. But what we'll do is we'll go out into his range, and John will offer me some advice and some tuition on how to use some of the things that we've been talking about. So if it's a Springer, and you know I hate Springers, or I'm not very good at them, I'm going to do what John tells me to do, okay, with the hope that I improve. The same would be with the handgun, and the same would be with the PCP gun that he's got, which I believe is a Gammo Fox.
I say, like, Coyote.
Gammo Coyote, beg your pardon.
And I've got a Brocock target pistol, which is PCP.
Fantastic. Also, I'm quite excited to use the BSA Junior as well.
Yeah, and I might add we've got a range of sights as well on these. Cool. We've got the open sights on the Springers. Mm-hmm. The PCPs have got telescopic sights of varying quality. And on the target pistol, we've got a red dot sight, which is similar to a telescopic sight, but essentially in crosshairs you see a little red dot.
And you just align that with whatever you're trying to...
You just align the red dot on the target. Okay. And it's adjustable exactly like you would with a telescopic sight, but it's a lot quicker and a lot more forgiving on what we call eye relief. With a telescopic sight, you've got a certain distance from your eye from the end of the scope.
You do.
That's known as eye relief.
Okay.
And you've got to get that right, otherwise you see a very small target. With the red dot sight, it's a lot more forgiving. You can have it out there on close, and it's great for much quicker picking up of the target. A bit of a Marmite thing. Some people love them, some people hate them.
Well, let's give it a try. I mean,
but you've got to try them. But they are much quicker and they are surprisingly accurate.
Cool. Right. Well, listen, John's details for contacting him will be in the video description of this video that you're watching now. We will stop it here and we'll go to the range.
Yes.
Cool. Really good fun. Let's see you in a second. So what we're doing is, before we go out on the range and actually shoot some of these guns, John is going to show us some. Okay, now I don't know much about break barrels. PCPs I'm okay with. What do we have here, John?
Well, the first one I'm going to show you is a Webley 177, and this is a new gun, and it's also one of the cheaper ones that you can buy. Around about £100, very good value.
Bargain.
They're not the most refined, but they do the job perfectly. They're full power. So while we're looking at this, I'm going to show you safely how we pick it up.
Okay.
So when you pick it up, first thing we do, break the barrel, and we can see that it's not cocked. No pellet in it. Mm-hmm. Golden rule: a gun is always loaded. Yep. We assume until proved otherwise. We always treat it as if it's a loaded gun. So you can see where the pellet goes in the barrel, and to cock this weapon, it's quite a strong spring. The recommended way is to place it on your head, put it down firmly until it clicks.
Do you keep a hold of that now?
Don't have to now.
Okay.
The pellet is placed in there, and when we close it, we point it to the ground like that. Two reasons: if we have it sticking upright, the pellet could fall out, and if it were to go off, And when you close the gun, there's always a slight risk of it discharging.
Okay.
It is going to go into the ground quite safely. So I'll just repeat that. When we close a gun, and this goes for shotguns, particularly as well, put it in, close it, keep it down. This particular one has a safety catch which is automatic. A lot of air guns don't. So to fire, we just push it forward. And at this point, I'm going to release this one, bit of noise.
So that would be one of the first guns that people would be introduced to if they were to come here?
Yes. That one or one like it.
Or one like it, okay, fantastic.
And I'm going to reiterate at this point, I mentioned safety catch. That is probably one of the worst terms going.
Okay, why is that?
Because a safety catch does not make a gun safe. It locks the trigger.
Right, so there's a distinction here.
Yes. The safety catch stops you pulling that trigger. The mechanism inside is still armed, and if you were to drop that gun or give it a severe jolt, it could may well go off. Okay,
so safety is a misdemeanor, really?
Very much so.
Okay.
It's a trigger lock.
Trigger lock.
But they're all called safe. They've usually got an S on it, or
yeah,
red dot.
F for fire, yeah.
Okay. Some are S and F, safe and fire. Treat it with contempt. Think of it as a mechanical feature that may or may not work.
Sure.
That sounds a bit dramatic. But
and if I actually did a video on this, they're called Cooper's rules. There was a marksman who created 4 rules, and if we were to always assume that the gun is loaded, which you always should do, that would still apply. So you, like in a kind of extension, you'd always assume, even if the safety is on, that it's not, right? Because
we assume it's loaded and treat it with the safety on and safety off with the same suspicion.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that gun will only be closed like that when it's standing up out of the way or ready to be fired.
Right.
Any other time, that will be either in the case or the barrel broken.
Okay.
So it's empty.
Okay.
An empty, broken gun's never been known to shoot anybody yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
I'm sure somebody will find a way.
Sure. Yeah.
You talk about the 4 rules.
Yep.
With shotguns, and I think this is important to air guns as well. If you have too many rules, people forget them.
Yes, absolutely.
And you can have too many. So I tend to stress the 2 rules. One is never point it at anything that you are unwilling to destroy.
Yep.
Empty or closed, get in that habit. And the other one, as we've already said, is any gun is treated as loaded until you proved otherwise.
Yeah, I think that as 2 real strong ones to instill right from the get-go, fundamental.
I'll tell you briefly a funny story.
Go ahead.
The rule 1 about never point a gun of any sort. A couple of years ago, I was at an event that was held, and there was a very good simulation of wild boar shooting.
Right.
Which involved the headset, earphones, so you were totally isolated.
Okay.
And you could see in front of you a forest surrounded by wild boar, and you had a rifle. And they were also behind you. And I was shooting this wild boar, and the person running the course was saying, "There's some more behind you." And I was saying, "But there are people behind me."
Oh, yeah.
And it was so ingrained that you never point anyone, even the
toy gun,
the artificial intelligence. I found it impossible to turn around knowing there were people behind me, even though.
But that's where you want everyone really to be, isn't it? Like, it doesn't matter that you lose in a video game. Who cares?
Yeah.
If someone lost a tooth or an eye or a life,
yes.
Okay, that's far more important than not getting the high score on the VR game.
Let's be honest. Everybody is going to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have a little slip. Excuse my language. Shouldn't have pointed it there.
Yeah.
By having all these precautions, we minimise the risk, such that if we did accidentally turn around, okay, the gun's open.
But it's not loaded.
and it's not loaded.
Sure.
When we do the shotgun coaching, we actually use a cage, which is a framework such that you cannot turn around.
Sure, yeah, it restricts you.
Restricts you, yes. Because I talk about the risk with an airgun pellet. Believe you me, a shotgun cartridge at close range is something you never want to see the effect of.
Yeah. That's...
and I could tell a story here, demonstrate how powerful it is, but some people might be a bit squeamish.
Sure, and we need to keep our viewership.
we need to keep,
everyone okay. Okay. Whilst they're here, right? So John has got some of the, we call these pistols, right?
This is a gunmo pistol, and all these pistols are replicas or close replicas of real life firearms. And this one is what's called a blowback. When you fire this one, and it's loaded with a magazine like this through the bottom, in the same way that a Walther Beretta would.
Yep.
And it's powered by a CO2 cartridge, which goes in the back here. It's empty at the moment.
Yep.
But you can either cock it like that, or the blowback, and when you fire it, it fires a pellet or BB. This one can use either. That blows back and recocks it.
Oh, cool.
Exactly the same as a real life pistol would.
So
the James Bond PPK is not dissimilar to this.
So you can fire repeatedly until the
yes,
clip is out.
It's a 10-shot clip, and you can go.
Fantastic.
I might add, this is possibly the most dangerous of all the ones we're going to play with.
Why is that?
Well, you tell me.
Because we're not playing with it, first and foremost.
Thank you. Yeah, good. You picked that one up.
Because you were testing me, right?
How was it?
So one of the reasons why that would be dangerous.
There was a hint there when I said play with it.
Well, because children could, I would imagine, because it looks like it could be toy-ish. Therefore, they could acquire it and then they could go on some sort of crazy rampage.
Well, if anybody watches Police Interceptors,
yep,
there was an episode a few months ago where the police got a call out to somebody threatening to shoot somebody out on the common in a park.
Right.
And some kids decided it'd be a good idea to take one of these out, and they were playing and pointing at each other. And the next thing they know, they were surrounded by very nice men in helmets, black clothing, and lots of little red dots on them.
Yeah.
As these nice policemen playing with real rifles were on the point of taking them out if they didn't surrender, because it looks like a gun, a real gun. A lot of people use these for armed robberies.
Sure.
And the police, if they don't
know the difference,
they will treat it as a real weapon. And
it is a real weapon. Like, if that was filled with pellets, you could really...
But they don't know that it's not a .38.
Exactly.
And if you use one of these as a pretend weapon, the law says it's armed robbery.
Yeah.
In the same way. And if I threaten somebody with it, the same penalties.
Yeah.
Up to 5 years just for carrying it. So the reason it's most dangerous is likely to cause you using it
the most harm.
So it's a bit of a trick question just to prove a point.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and it's valid. So what about this next one? Looks a little bit beefier, if that's the correct term.
This one is actually a target version, same action, or similar action, should I say? It's a fairly faithful copy of a 6-hour.
Okay.
And this one is loaded with a magazine in the top, and it's what's known as a double action pistol. Now, what a double action means is you can either cock it manually, and fire it like that, which is a single action, or the double action, you can just pull the trigger and it will cock it and fire it.
Okay.
So you've got the double action, single or double.
I never understood that. I've heard it before.
For target shooting, use a single, less effort. If you want to do rapid fire, and I'll point it at the camera, pointing away from Chris. I can fire 10 off that quickly.
And you have 10 in the magazine?
10 in the magazine, yes.
Okay.
Maybe 9, I can't remember.
Yeah.
9 or 10.
That's a lot of fun.
Okay. But you, again,
what sort of distance are they accurate?
This one is fairly accurate, over 10 yards, certainly group an inch.
Wow, okay.
So that one is good. This one, with BBs, which are the steel balls,
yep,
is not very accurate. Over 10 yards, you'd probably be doing quite well to hit a
dinner plate.
With the 177 pellets in there, it is better. Mm-hmm. But you do get quite a kick from it to simulate a real pistol.
Okay.
So when you fire it, it is going to kick up on you in
Okay.
this same one.
Cool.
Where this one has got hardly any recoil at all.
Oh, okay.
So
the other guns, and we will get those in a second, are
PC.
we have another Springer. I think that's worth looking at the
underlever.
Oh, no, we'll break. I'll go and get them. So it's a little bit of seamless change. And the other one is something that I'm more familiar with. But I'll get them both. Okay. And it's very easy to edit. So I'm just gonna give you that one. Would that one get? I was going to put them on the table.
Lay on the table. Okay, right below. Right. The next one we'll look at is what's called an underlever. Again, it's a Springer, but instead of the brake barrel, it's got an underlever. So you cock it by pulling that back, and that cocks the screw. And on the top, the opening lever where you drop the pellet in,
right,
and close it up. That also acts as a safety device in as much that it can only fire when it's fully closed.
Right, so how do you drop the pellet in?
Holding the top.
Well, you put the pellet in head
Yeah,
first?
yeah. And as you put it that back, it's a little 90-degree sleeve.
Oh, okay.
That aligns it with the barrel.
Wow.
So it can only fire when it's back there.
Right.
So that acts like a safety device as well.
Oh, very clever.
These are very good for vermin control.
Yes.
They're chunky, surprisingly accurate, and having the long wooden forend allows you to get a longer rest on it.
Yeah.
Because with any air gun, you should never rest on the barrel.
Absolutely, yeah.
Particularly with Springers. You can get away with it to a certain degree with a PCP.
Right.
Because they don't have recoil. But with these, with the strong spring, the reaction of the spring,
yep,
if you rest it on something hard, it will go all over the place.
Yes.
And
yeah.
Always use the forend as a rest, and with a Springer, a softer thing as you can.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So if I were to have a hard rest there, like a branch,
mm-hmm,
and rest that barrel on it, you lose all your accuracy because it bounces all over the place. Better to rest it on that long forend wood.
And I would guess as well, if you can have your hand on the gun, then underneath on the branch, even better still.
Yes, it's better still.
Okay.
Quite a basic telescopic sight on it, but it's good enough. This one is surprisingly accurate, over 20 yards, certainly within an inch.
Okay, well, I guess it will be a test whether I can do that.
Yeah.
Now, this last one is one that I'm more familiar with. I'm going to go so far as to say that the basic design of PCPs is they're all the same.
Yes.
Now, so in terms of what they offer, they have a air cylinder that you fill up either from the end or somewhere else on the gun, from the oxygen tank that we looked at previously, the air tank, beg your pardon. But they're all, for all intents and purposes, exactly the same sort of mechanism. But can you give us your rundown of it, please, John?
Yep. This one is made by a company called Gamo, which is Spanish, and they're part of, I believe now, BASC.
Yep.
These are, I was going to say cheap, that's not. They are very good
affordable.
Value indeed. Very affordable. You can buy these new, something in the region of about 340 quid-ish.
Yeah.
Second hand, I paid £200 for this, and it's as new with the scope.
Bargain.
A cracking gun. Got adjustable stock on.
Yep.
The scope is basic but good enough. It comes with a safety on the trigger there, The good thing about these is the trigger is adjustable.
Okay, and why is that?
Oh, I'm just going to explain. One of the big differences between a cheap weapon of any sort, be it air gun, shotgun, and a good one, is the trigger.
Okay.
When you get to the top of the range, Chris's gun, for instance, has an electronic trigger.
It does.
Where you merely have to touch it.
Then for some people that's not a good thing.
No, absolutely. That is something you can tune down. You can tune these triggers from something like £6 or £7, which is awful.
Yeah.
To
2 or 3.
2 or 3. I wouldn't recommend the beginner goes any less than 3.
No.
This one's adjustable with a long screw. I've actually had to change that screw to get it something good, but the trigger on this does release very nicely indeed now. I
have not shot this gun before, so I mean, if this might be the only thing that I'm good at today, would be doing this.
This one, if you want to get into PCPs, and you do not need a cylinder like that, you can pump them up with a special stirrup pump. It takes a few minutes and keeps the heart and lungs going. Yeah. But it's doable. You can buy these second hand for, well, I paid £200 for this.
You can get them for under £300 all day long.
All day long, you know, new ones with all the kit. This actually one hasn't got a sound moderator on it, so it does make a little bit more noise. But it's nothing serious.
Not at all.
This one loads through the side with the magazine in there, 10 shots. Yep. And you cock it by pulling that back like that. One thing to remember with these bolt action ones, pull it all the way back until it clicks. Yeah. Otherwise you risk losing 2 pellets.
Make mistakes with that.
And this one's a bit noisy because it's not got a sound moderator.
No.
Okay. And useful tip, you can't break these to show the barrel's empty. What you can do is to leave the cocking bolt halfway back, and so you can see it's empty there.
So,
and
if random question here, do you have a favourite? Do you prefer like a Springer to a PCP, or are you? Because lots of people get very romantic about Springers, don't they? They're like, this is old school, and
I don't. There was a famous gun writer and an instructor, coach, and he was asked many times, what's the best gun? What should I buy? Yeah. What's the best one? You know, what is the best gun? And he summed it up every time, and he said, the best gun is the one that you get the most enjoyment out of, and does the job you want it to do. Now, if you get most enjoyment out of a cheap Springer, then that's a gun for you. Or if you're like someone I know, I can't think of his name at the moment, but he spends a lot of money on top of the range PCPs. Right, okay. Yeah. He gets a lot of enjoyment out of having the most accurate. Yeah. Fine, I don't have any problem with that. A lot of people will have so much fun with that.
Oh yeah.
And bearing in mind, you can buy one of these. I paid for this one in good condition, 60 quid.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the real important things, is that once you get into air gunning and you have a gun and maybe a fill tank, which you can get filled, Cliff at Oakhampton Gun does it, there are other shops as well. It's not an expensive hobby at all.
Certainly the cheapest of all is the Springer.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't cost you anything to cock it.
No.
And there's no point generally in buying the top pellets, because it'll perform just as well on the cheap ones.
In terms of, because for me, I spent a long time before like fine-tuning pellets, and in some of the other videos on the channel, lots of people criticise me for not using the right pellet in some of the guns, which is fine. That's absolutely cool.
The best pellet is the one that works best in your gun.
Yes.
End of story.
Yeah.
And you can spend, an average good pellet is around about £10 for
500 JSP. Yeah.
Yeah. I find in my PCPs, I get very good results with Redley AccuPal.
Yep.
And buying them in a fair number at a time through Ramsbottoms, they're about £7, £6, £7 a tin.
Bargain.
Excellent. They work fine, so I've had no reason to try others. In the Springers, I've used some really cheap ones, and they've been just as good.
Wasps.
Yes, wasps have been fine.
Yeah. They. I remember using those back when I was 10. So with a little bit of an overview of these guns, I think the real proof would be if we go out and shoot some.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you think so?
Yeah. So.
Okay. Now we're going to go to the range, and we're going to shoot some of these things. Anything else you would like to say, John?
No, that's it at the moment.
Okay. Let's go. It's a lovely sunny day. Let's hope there's no wind, and we'll see. Okay, John, this is the moment of truth.
It is.
For everyone, what are we doing? What's going on here?
Right, first off, we're going to try the Wedley Springer 177.
Okay.
And we're shooting a target which is 20 yards away.
Okay.
You should be able to, with a bit of practice, do them within about an inch.
Right.
We have an interesting range here in that we're in quite a windy position. So not only have you got to take into account the accuracy of the rifle, you've got to allow for windage.
Okay.
And this is shooting in the real world.
Yeah, which I don't do.
Which isn't like shooting inside, like you would at crack shop. Not brilliant facilities.
Yeah, amazing.
But they don't suffer with side winds.
No.
And things like that. Whereas out here, to give you an example, about a year ago, Chris and I were doing some practice with his Viral, and we had the target at 40 metres, and I was shooting it, and I was actually shooting 100 millimetres or 4" in old money to the left of the bull
to hit the bull,
and we were hitting the bull, and we managed to group them all within an inch, but because of the crosswind, we were actually shooting 100 millimetres to the left.
Yeah, I remember that.
So that's something. Anyway, what Chris is going to do now is to
pick it up.
Pick it up.
So is this being cocked yet?
No.
Then I would just snap it down.
Yeah, put it down till it clicks. That's it.
Okay, now
let go.
I can let go.
Yeah.
Grab a pellet.
Put it in. Drop it in carefully. Keep it pointing down. It is quite stiff. You might need to snap it shut.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, now I can pop it on the rest.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Just remember.
Is it safety?
Not the barrel. Leave the safety at the moment.
Yep.
That's a soft mount.
Yep.
Springy mount, so you can rest it on there. Get comfortable.
Can I take the safety off now?
No, not yet. No.
Okay.
No, keep your finger off the trigger. As you know, but I'll explain. You've got a little red foresight.
That's right.
And some green markers there.
That's right.
If you align the notch there and the red tip there on the bull.
Just the tip of the red bit?
Yeah, so you've got the red in between the green dots.
Yeah.
And the red on the bull.
Okay. Then I should be able to do it.
You should. So that's it. Push the safety off.
So I can shoot now.
Okay. You've got quite a lot of creep on that trigger.
I'm not sure if I even hit the target, John.
Okay.
Can I try again?
But take another one. Okay. Right. That's it.
Try again. It's definitely a different experience than shooting
Absolutely.
PCP.
A different world altogether.
What's it looking like?
You see, I've got to focus it on.
It's hard.
Let me just bring it. Keep it going down.
Yep.
Okay.
So I did hit it.
Yeah, 3 there. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, cool. Because I think it's really important to be honest about your shooting. So I'm not going to take this again and get the bullseye. But what it is just showing you is that I need to account maybe for a bit more for wind than I was doing.
So, and what's the problem? Right. Remember the figure. Use the pad.
Middle of the finger.
The trigger wants to be there, okay, not there. Okay. If it's there, you wrap round and you're pulling sideways. Okay. If it's there, you're straight pull. Alright. That does make quite a difference.
Wow, okay. Let's do a 3 more.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, excuse me, 2 more. And we can see what it's like. That did feel different, actually.
Coming back.
Yeah, come through. Ah, no, that sounded better to me. 1 more.
Yeah.
Then we'll see
And then look at the target.
what the target's like.
We'll take another target out and we'll try the under lever. That's quite a powerful gun. That's at the maximum legal limit.
Cool, yeah, it feels powerful. That sounded better to me. So, John, when just this,
Break it.
so just
That's it. That's
like
it.
that.
Yep, that's it.
Then just
That's
rest
it,
it down.
Yep, that's it. Let's go and have a look.
Let's go and have a look what it's. Okay, John. So, talk to me. What's the situation here?
This is another Springer, but this is the under lever.
Mm-hmm.
So you cock it.
So
Pick
I'm
it
just
up.
going to get it. I'm lefty. So what do I do?
Just pull it down. Treat it as if up the barrel. That's it.
Yep.
Push it back up.
That back
Yep,
up now.
Snap it back up. Okay, and then to put the pellet in, it's very stiff this one.
Yep.
Push it forward. Yeah. Drop the pellet in like that. Pull it back. That's it.
Now the gun's ready to fire.
Yeah, there is no safety on this one. That's the safety.
Oh, okay.
So if you're walking along somewhere, just leave it like that so I can't fire.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So it was the same as. See, this already feels a nicer. Ah, we're on a site as well, which is wonderful.
Feel free to focus it.
That's fine. No, that's good.
Okay.
Okay, so that went to the left.
Okay. This one could well be out of 0. It hasn't been used for a while.
Okay, but I reckon.
So if you compensate for that.
Yeah. So can you tell me how to? So I press that little nubbin down.
Yeah, that's it.
Push it back.
Yep.
Then that goes forward.
Absolutely.
Then pop the pellet in. Then what I can do. Okay, just a bit higher. So all I did then was compensate for what was done before. So what John was referring to was the fact that guns and their telescopic sights need to be zeroed in. Did I do that wrong? No? Is that fine? Which is an art of itself, but that's the sort of thing that John would happily help you with. Right, let's try.
No matter how well the scope is mounted, a little knock can knock it off 0.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can give it a real good knock and nothing happens. Other times it goes off because it's a Monday.
Sure. Yeah.
And for no other reason, so it seems.
And it hates a
So
Monday.
it seems. You know, it's a simple development.
Yeah.
If you're going to a competition, then obviously you 0 up, and on a lot of
John, I like this gun. This is good fun.
on a lot of targets, you have a miniature 0 target, where you can have a shot or 2 at that first to work out for windage before you go on to the main target, whatever it be.
I never knew that. I didn't understand what that was for. So, I think. Okay, that was a little high. So, John, when we go and look at the target, do I need to do anything to this one to make it safe?
Just leave it
Just
like
that?
Yeah.
Okay, and you can pop it back on the table?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Do. You go and look at the
Let's go have a look, I'll bring it back.
I'll leave it over here. Although we jokingly say let's have a play with this one, what we really mean is we'll enjoy it and have fun doing it.
Yes.
But play with it in a responsible, serious way.
These are the pellets we were just using.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They won't be a lot of good in this one.
No, they won't.
No. There's a gunno.
So this is something that I'm a lot more familiar with due to owning the PCPs that I have done previously. And that already feels way more natural to me. And the idea being...
Okay, if you hook it like that.
So that's full of pellets, right?
That's full of pellets, yeah.
So can I have a full mag on this job?
You can do what you like.
Is there a...
No, not this
There's
one.
no safety?
Yes, there is. The safety, small lever there, push it forward.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I'm still going to go for the...
If you shoot on the door,
And we can see what the zero is. And
notice the difference on the trigger for this one, how much lighter it is.
much.
Very little creep. On full bore rifles for hunting, people can spend hundreds if not thousands of pounds on special triggers. There are companies that make strange triggers that are so adjustable. You wouldn't believe.
I don't think I'm ready for one of those yet. This could be number 10. I'll try one more?
Yeah, you know, there's a-
I know, I've just spotted there is a handy little number dial. Right.
that's it, okay.
Do I need to do anything before I put that one down?
Hold on. Cook it like that.
Yep.
Thing like that.
Beautiful.
And that's fine enough. Leave that loose.
Cool. Shall I go and have a look at the grouping?
Oh, absolutely.
You've got to look at the groupings.
We've got to go and look at the grouping. Let's see what it's like. Hang on, I'll bring another target. So we can go on to the screen in there. And one thing that's interesting, that particular scope you used, is it anything like as powerful or big as the one that Chris normally uses on his BCP. The reason being is more of a tactical scope for shooting of different targets fairly quickly.
Yeah.
For instance, you might on sort of action shooting, you might have a target over there at 10 yards, one at 5, one at 20, one at 40, where you're not allowed to adjust the focus, you're not allowed to adjust the magnification. You can zero up on whichever target you like, and after that, you stay.
You've got to compensate.
And you need a scope that's fairly easy and quick to pick up, so fairly low magnification, and one that's easy on the eye relief.
Yeah.
Because if you're spending 30 seconds on each target just getting the target in view, your performance, when timed,
It's going to
isn't
suffer.
brilliant.
I have actually used this gun before. I have owned BSA. Beg your pardon. I've owned BSA Ultras before,
This one.
And this one benefits from having a safety. Oops, it's a little short.
Yeah, the baby one. This is a.
Or I'm a big guy.
No, this is the Junior JSR, and it's designed for youngsters. It only weighs 5 pounds, but it's exactly the same as the big brother, with the exception it's only half the power. This one's a maximum of 6 foot-pounds, but it's still frighteningly accurate. As you can hear, no noise, no recoil, hardly see any movement when he fires it.
Oops, a little quick on the trigger there, Christopher. Right, there's 10 shots.
Okay.
Let me just make sure.
Uncuff them, take the mag out.
Pop, pop.
That's it. Fire it off into the ground. And just leave the bolt loose.
Oh, okay, yeah, you can leave the bolt loose, yes,
Yeah.
of course. Okay.
Okay, let's go and have a look at that.
Okay, so that was, to a lesser or greater extent, me for the first time using some of those guns that we spoke about earlier in the video. Now, the most successful ones were the PCPs.
As you'd expect.
For me, because I shoot them every single day, so I'm very used to them. But I learned a few things that I didn't know about springers and these hand pistols. John, this was a new one. Can you just, before we go, just talk to us about this one?
This is one we didn't use. This is a target pistol. PCP again, made by Brocock. And much lighter, if you feel it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Got the ergonomic grip on it. And this one has got the red dot sight on it. So you can either hold it close up if you're resting it, at arm's length. It's got no magnification on it.
Right.
And all you see is a little red dot. Maybe if you hold it up to the camera, they will see the red dot. No, you'll have to go to the business end.
Oh really? I think that's impossible to do.
It might be. There's a little red dot in the middle, turn it, so it's looking along it.
You can see a red dot, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that might not have been the red dot, but anyway.
Yeah. You'll have to take our word for it. But when you
It feels very good quality.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Brocock,
This is
owned by Daystate.
yeah. Now, yeah. This is not dissimilar to the air pistols they use at the Olympics.
Wow, okay.
They've got 1 or 2 more gizmos on it.
Yep. But fundamentally,
Fundamentally,
it's exactly the same.
Yes, you've got the ergonomic grip, very, very light trigger. So much so that you've got to be really careful with this one.
yeah,
Not one for novices.
right.
This is somebody who's experienced.
But is it the sort of thing that if someone was to come here for a day...
Yes, they get a chance to use
they
that. Yeah. But it's not the sort of thing you'd buy your 10-year-old, not that you're allowed to anyway,
Sure.
legally. This is a serious tool. This
Yes.
is something that...
Yeah. I mean, it feels a lot different than the other two, even
It is,
from
yeah.
holding it.
It is.
So that was, for me, a very fun morning. I love talking about guns, and to a greater or lesser extent as well, I want people to keep shooting, because I think this is a fantastic thing that I've got a lot from. John, do you have anything you'd like to talk about in summary of today?
No, don't think so. Thank you very much for coming along and making this video.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure.
Hopefully everybody will learn something from this.
Yeah.
Um,
That I'm not a very good shot with a Springer. That's a joke.
no. Everybody learns something from somebody else about guns.
Yeah.
Do I know everything about it? Not by a long chalk.
Sure.
I've been shooting for, as I said before, many, many years. When I went on my coaching courses and safety courses a few years ago, I learned a lot. not just how to teach people, but also one or two little things. I'll admit it on camera, after 40 odd years, one or two things I wasn't doing properly.
But that's, I think, to be able to admit that you are still capable of learning and there's things that you are still trying to improve on is the sign of someone who is grounded and a good teacher.
I'll stop learning when you come to my funeral.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's nice that I'll be invited. But I think to summarise, this has been a wonderful thing for me to do. Okay, I'm not saying that I'm a pro by any stretch of the imagination. I can shoot, but I still need to improve. Okay, and I think that for half a day of your time, if there was 4 of you that wanted to do this and you were interested in air rifles or ballistics in general, this is a wonderful thing to do. John is working on his Facebook page.
Yes,
as we speak,
I'll put that away shortly.
And that's going to be going live soon, and there'll be all of the details to contact him in that Facebook link. It's very easy to get to from Exeter or Oakhampton in the southwest of England, and for my money at least, this would be a really good investment in airgun safety, having a very good overview of the history of air guns, and actually getting to use them with some expert tuition as well. John, I had a really good day today.
Good.
This was really good fun, and I learned.
But the weather helped, didn't it?
The weather, it did help, yeah, but
although it's an all-weather range.
Yes, so you can do this in the rain as well.
Yeah,
but
the
the nice weather did make it good. Listen, thank you very much for your time today, John.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
That was really good fun.
See you.
Let's go!